Hello, vinyl community. Elliot here, Lazy Dogs Records. It's January 2023, and of course, this time of year, somebody will start a vinyl tag that will go around. Last year, we had all kinds of vinyl tags going on, and it was really fun to do different ones. We had parody vinyl tags, we had comedy vinyl tags, we had straight ahead vinyl tags. We did genres. I remember we did a blues one and a country one and jazz one, maybe things like that. Well, I don't know what will unfold this year, but I'm sure it'll be fun. There's 20 questions in our vinyl tag. Rob Walker is the one that started this one this year. I'll put a link to his channel below. I'll also put a list of the 20 questions, but it's a lot, so I'm very long-winded, so I'm gonna try to go through these relatively quickly for me. And if you enjoy, please click like. Okay, you don't have to subscribe to me. It's okay. You don't have to click like even. But if you enjoy it, do click like, so maybe more people will get a chance to see it, and it'll spread the word about vinyl tag a little bit more far-reaching than it would otherwise. Okay, first one was to show a new release that you got this year, and I'm not even going to take these if I've already got them in a outer sleeve. I'm not going to take the outer sleeve. I know it'll give you glare, but we just don't have time. I've been hoping that Molly Tuttle would do a more straight-ahead bluegrass album rather than her more contemporary folk style that she's been releasing as albums. So Molly Tuttle and Golden Highway, Crooked Tree, an excellent album, highly recommended, and so check her out. And the next one, I believe, was an album by an artist that you had most recently seen, the most recent concert you went to. Haven't been to much of anything. This was probably 2019 or 20 when I saw them, pre-pandemic anyway. Southern Culture on the Skids. This is called Bootlegger's Choice, and because they were on a major label for their first album or so, a lot of their favorite songs, they couldn't get those albums re-released. They didn't have the rights to the recording, so they re-recorded a lot, like Camel Walk and Fried Chicken and Gasoline, Nitty Gritty, Soul City. Just great stuff on here. If you're not familiar with Southern Culture on the Skid, highly recommend them as well. A psychobilly, country-politan, rock and roll mishmash. I don't know what you call it. Number 3 would be an artist whose first album was his best. Now, he may have released something independently or something before this, but I believe this is his first national release, the great Randy Travis. And maybe this may be his second album. Correct me if I'm wrong. But Storms of Life, great cover too, and back cover. And this is just a wonderful album. It's got On the Other Hand and Storms of Life on here. Digging Up Bones. This is 1982. This is just a great album from a wonderful singer, Randy Travis. And number 4, I believe, was to show a hat trick. An artist that you have, he said, album, CD, and cassette. Well, I go back to the 8 tracks. I didn't really dabble in cassettes hardly at all, but I don't have them all now. But at one time or another, I had this album on. I remember having it on 8 track when I was a freshman in college. Had it on 8 track. That would have been in 1977. Had it on 8 track. I got the CD in the 80s when you couldn't get albums anymore, and I always had the album. And this is actually from my original collection from 1977. Jerry Jeff Walker, A Man Must Carry On. Kind of a live record with just all kinds of stuff in it. There's poetry in there. There's it's kind of psychedelic. No, I shouldn't use the word psychedelic. That's wrong connotation. just kind of abstract country, I guess you might say. And then number 5 was an album. The title, first letter in the title and the last letter in the title are the same. I thought of this immediately. A lot of people bash this guy. He put out about 3 great records and about 5 or 6 really good records. So he should not be. I know people, he's oversaturated the market and everything like that. But this is a great album. Jimmy Buffett, A1A. I love the picture there too. And A1A is, of course, the highway that runs down through Florida. This album is just a wonderful, wonderful album. I was going to name off a few songs on here, but I'll just, for the sake of time, I'll stop there. So there's my first 5. Okay, now for 6 through 10. Number 6 question was artist that was born the same year you were. Marty Stewart. This is an excellent album. I'm going to say that about all these because I wouldn't be showing them if they weren't excellent albums. Way Out West, and it's Marty Stewart and his Fabulous Superlatives. And this is on Superlaton Records from 2017. And just a wonderful atmospheric type album that I think anybody would be a bit wise to explore. Marty Stewart was out there on the road, sitting in the back seat of Bill Monroe's travel car, getting lessons from Bill Monroe on the mandolin at 14 when I was, twiddling my thumbs and being a totally worthless kid. So he learned from masters, put it that way, and he puts out some wonderful, wonderful music. Okay, and next was album you played the most this year. Well, I've been really getting into jazz this year, or in 2022. This was the year of jazz for me, for sure. I don't listen to anything. I try to listen to anything I get new or buy a used record several times before I put it on the shelf. But I don't listen to anything over and over and over and over again. But I probably listened to this album about 5 or 6 times since I got it. John Coltrane, My Favorite Things, and this was when this came out. This is the Atlantic remaster, My Favorite Things, John Coltrane, and I was glad to get that. And because jazz has been my where I've been exploring a lot in the last year, that's probably Coltrane is probably who I've listened to more than anybody else. Just a few records. A lot of members of the vinyl community have really influenced me in exploring, going down this rabbit hole, and I appreciate everything they've done to broaden my horizons. That's just a few of John Coltrane's, but I picked up a lot of John Coltrane in the last year or so. So I probably listened to his music more than anybody else. Next was an Australian artist, Tommy Emmanuel. Great mainly fingerstyle guitar picker. And this is on 30 Tigers, I believe. Accomplice One, this is called. And if you're not familiar with Tommy Emmanuel, you should pull some of his stuff up and preview it if you want, and you'll really be. This was a 2018 album. You'll be amazed at what this man can do. And this is an album where he has guest artists with him. Jason Isbell's on here, Ricky Skaggs, Jorma Kumat, how do you say it? The guy from Jefferson Airplane. David Grisman and Brian Sutton are on here. Amanda Shires, Mark Knopfler, Rodney Crowell, Jerry Douglas. Lots of great artists playing with him. And the next question, I guess this is number 10. the most surprising purchase you've made. Bought this on YouTube sale. Fred Putterman was selling, and on a whim, I bought this one. And he made comment, "I can't. You really want that one?" And but I enjoyed this one. Saint Vincent, Marry Me. And you know, it's not saying that I'm going to play this regularly or anything, or I'm going to become a completist on her or anything, but a nice change of pace every once in a while. So those are my first 10. Okay, here is 11 through 15. And the number 11 was an artist you're a completist on. I'm a completist for Delbert McClinton, the great R&B, country, soul, blues, rock artist. And show you how much of a completist I am. This is when he was a teenager, the Rondells. He grew up in the Fort Worth area, and there's a great music scene in Fort Worth. You could get recorded there. And he is the Fort Worth sound. Delbert McClinton with the Rondells. So I had to pay a little bit of money for this, but I waited until I found somebody that wanted to sell it and not just wanted to list it and watch people not buy it. Got pretty much, I'm not going to say I have every single Delbert McClinton album, but I've got all his releases on labels, but you know, and I've got a couple of like promotional EP type things and things like that. But there's some stuff out there I probably don't have, but I'm pretty darn close. Now, number 12 was to show a three album run by an artist. Didn't have to think hard for this one either. 3 album run. Starting in 1975, Bruce Springsteen put out Born to Run. I know people slam the production of this album, but man, what a dynamic album. I was fortunate enough to see Springsteen in '76 when they were touring with this album, and it was the best live concert I've ever been to. And I had the worst seats in Cameron Arena in Durham, North Carolina at Duke University. The worst seats. Then he came out, waited a while, and then came out with Darkness on the Edge of Town. And then the 2-album record, The River. And I think he was at his peak in creativity at that point. All right, next was a soundtrack from the 80s. The Long Riders. Remember that movie? Love Westerns. Ry Cooder did the music for The Long Riders, and this came out in 1980. Excellent soundtrack, as anything Ry Cooder ever does is going to be excellent. And then Someone We Lost in 2022, Creed Taylor. Creed Taylor was from Virginia, and he went to Duke University, where he played in the jazz bands there at Duke in the early 1950s. And then when he graduated from Duke, he went to New York City and tried to get into the music production business. And he succeeded. Bethlehem, I believe, was the first label that he worked with to produce music, jazz music. Then he went to, from there, ABC got him to start the Impulse label for jazz recordings, and he did that. He left after he signed John Coltrane. Pretty soon after that, he left to work with Verve, and from Verve in 1967, he started his own jazz label, CTI, Creed Taylor Incorporated, I guess it would be. And here's a CTI and a Chet Baker, She Was Too Good to Me. It's got Herbert Laws and Paul Dresman and Bob Scott and Ron Carter. Ron Carter's on everything, right? Steve Gadd and Jack DeJohnette. So CTI, first distributed by A&M, I believe, and then he signed a deal for distribution with Motown. So next I've got the last of this, number 15, would be an album you were disappointed in this year that you got. Fleet Foxes, Crack Up. I've heard so many good things about Fleet Foxes, and from that generation below me, those 40-somethings and 30-somethings, I guess, about how good Fleet Fox was. But it's on None Such Records. But I got this, bought it used, didn't pay a huge amount of money for it, but it's in great condition. I'll have to give it a couple more listens, but it just didn't move me the first time I listened to it. Okay, the next question was non-vinyl purchase. So I picked up these two items separately, actually. Here's an amp I got, and it's a Eagle 2 from Electron Kinetics, I believe it is. Small company, early 80s, I believe it was. And this guy, you see his name there, he disappeared mysteriously a few years after this, either murdered or ran off with the money or something. And but that's a really good amp. It's the nicest amp I've ever had. And I don't know that much about that sort of stuff, but it's just a real powerful amp. I don't know. All I know is watts per channel. I'm sure there's so many other things to look at. But I mean, I think it was 120 at 4 ohms, and maybe it was 100 at 8 ohms or something like that. More power than I ever need. And this is a mid-70s phono amp slash preamp. That is from Pioneer. It's a C21 from Pioneer, made in Japan, and it does really well. You've got those those controls to work with your cartridge there. You can vary that from. You don't have to go to the back of the component to tweak with them or anything like that. But I don't like to do that. But those are my two non-vinyl purchases, or two non-vinyl purchases. For 17 through 20, 17 was a GRAIL you found, something I've been looking for a long time. Billy Joe Shaver's Old Five and Dimers Like Me on Monument Records. Great album, great. It's got Black Rose on it, Old Five and Dimers Like Me, Jesus Christ, What a Man. I've been to George on a Fast Train. Jesus Was Our Savior and Cotton Was Our King. Bottom Dollar. Just a GRAIL album if there ever was one. And then 18 was a space-themed sleeve or song or album. John Howie Jr., Not Tonight. John Howie Jr., I believe it was the $2 Pistols that he fronted. Alt country from the 80s when the Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina area was very vibrant in that genre. $2 Pistols, Whiskey Town, Ryan Adams and all that, all those folks. A bunch of really good bands coming out of there. But this is a 2018 recording by him. He was with Sarah Shook and the Disarmers for a while, drumming for them. I think they had a falling out. He's not with them anymore. VCLT or a present. This was both a present and VCLT, not records, but Fred Putterman, who's one of those people that has influenced me a great deal about jazz, so kind to have sent me a number of books to read this year. And he sent me 2 books, especially that have built my knowledge of jazz. Jazz in American Culture by Burton W. Petriti. Excellent book, just what it sounds like, tracing, following the history of the 20th century as it relates to the music of jazz. Has jazz influenced it, or has it influenced jazz, so on and so forth. And another book helped me with my technical understanding of jazz, Johnny King, An Insider's Guide to Understanding and Learning Jazz. That's not actually the name of the book. It's also actually called What Jazz Is. What Jazz Is. Okay. an insider's guide to understanding and listening to jazz. Learn lots of things that make more sense to me. How different instruments interact and what they're actually doing technically and things like that. And finally, a 1973 release. I was 14, turning 15 late in the year in 1973. So this album had a huge influence on me going forward musically. And that would be the Allman Brothers and Sisters. Great album cover too, don't you agree? From 1973 on Capricorn Records. This was their comeback after so much loss they had suffered in the couple of years preceding that, and it was full of so much different music, country and jazz and blues and rock, and how all those interact and interplay, and it helped form my development of my brain when it came to music. And I think I'm so glad I was born in 58 and not 62, and then disco became the music that was imprinted in my brain in that early teens period. All right, so that's Vinyl Tag 2023. I hope you will also participate in Vinyl Tag, and I will look forward to seeing other videos. If you don't mind, like I say, hit the like button and subscribe if you'd like, but don't feel obligated at all, because my musical adventure may be so different from yours you may not have any interest in it, and that's fine. But if you hit a like, more people will see it, and we'll spread the Vinyl Tag further and further into the stratosphere. All right, everybody, take care, and remember, be kind to your neighbors, because we're all neighbors.